We've got our first glitch of the day. You're familiar with the karanga, and the karanga of all the waka would normally accompany this visual. Ko tainui te arawa, toko maru, taki timu, and so on.
E te ariki, tuia te rangi e tū nei, tuia te papa e takoto nei, tuia ki roto ki a mātou katoa, o tēne hui hunga, ki te here e kore e taia te wewete, tuia ki whakaro pai, tuia ki whakaro nui, tuia ki whakaro pohono. Kia utonu ai mātou kia koe, te mana, te tapu, te ihi, te wehi, āmeni.
Amen. This is you, Leslie. Just unmute yourself. Thank you.
Yeah. E te whanau. Kua hui hui mai nei. Tau mai. Whakatau mai. Te mai tua tahi. Ki te atua. Kaha rawa. Te kahi homai o nā mea katoa. Te meia. Tuarua. Kia tatau katoa. E kaona ana. E te kaupa. E tene ata. Peke mai. Hake mai. Here mai. E mihi atua kia tatau. Katoa. Tene katoa. Tene katoa. Tene tatau katoa.
Kia ora.
He mihi kau aki kia koutou, tātua hoki anoho pai ana ki Wanganui ti mahanatanga a o tātou whana huri noa. Mihi hoki ki tātou I mahi ana I tiaki nā tongoa tuki iho I oranga mō nā uri hokutupu. Mi hoki mahara ki nā tini aitua. Ratu kua haere ki ti tini ti mano nā riera haere atura. Ratu kia ratau, tatu kia tatau, hioi ano. Tina tato katoa.
Kia ora, Diana. Kia ora koutou, nau mai hoki mai. Ki tō tātou nei kaupapa Taha Māori I te ata nei. Welcome back and welcome to those who are joining us for the first time. Ngā mihi nui, ngā mihi aroha, kia koutou, mō tēnei wā. My usual disclaimer, of course, so I don't get in trouble, not a reo teacher or translator or have the qualifications to do this. Aroha nui, kia koutou katoa, kia tātou. And of course, the back translations are not approved and just purely for your understanding. We've covered a bit of ground in this series, so this is the last of series 3 today. Some of our focus has been around Marae, kawa and tikanga. We covered karanga, and I'm sorry that that soundbite didn't come in that slide. What a shame. But anyway, you're familiar with it. We've covered karanga with kahupau. We've covered karakia with moawawa, kaumātua kuia about karakia on Marae, and we covered whai kōrero with the various esteemed speakers and presenters last week. Today we concentrate on poroporoaki. So as I've explained in the past, there's a process on our marae, and we've gone from the beginning, and today ends with the poroporoaki, which is the farewell. There's lots of stuff in between, of course, of course, but these are the main steps of marae kawa, marae tikanga. So whenever you go onto a marae, you can expect to experience all of those things at some time during your visit. We've looked at the paipera tapu in the readings for the Sunday coming. Today is no exception, including the sentences and collects, rāranga me ngā inoi o te rā. We've practiced a little bit more on pronunciation, and I can still hear the improvements. Thank you. I know there were kai mihi, kai Karakia this morning. They were a little bit nervous, but you're getting it. Absolutely. You are well and truly on your way, and I congratulate you and give yourself a pat on the back. We've looked at waiata and himene. We did the e te iwi with the New Zealand Youth Choir. Again, I encourage you to table that in your with your youth and see if they might be prepared to learn it. Challenge them. They need to be challenged. And of course, we've had our Māori topical presenters, various ones. We started with Tamehiti, who many would think that he is quite a scary sort of a person, but there is a gentleness to him. We covered Pani and Newton and Ihu Matao. And last week we covered Rawiri Waititi in Parliament. And today they all will be revealed in due course. We looked at numbers, numerics, which will help us, of course, introduce our readings. That's what that's all about. So you know how to introduce the readings. I roto I te reo Māori. So the numbers were there. And today we're looking at Sunday's readings, and I've taken the readings from Proverbs. And the paipera tapu lists Proverbs as whakatauki. Whakatauki. On page 480 is the introduction to the readings. So I am gonna test you. And so this was that little nuance that I offered you last week. I thought a little bit more about it, and you know what? We can actually use kote whiti all the way through. And I think that might help just make it easier for you rather than having to think, oh, when do I apply it and when don't I apply it? I think if you use kote whiti in all the readings, it'll be okay. But as I said last week, tuatahi means when we use it for the first reading, second reading, third reading. But once we start getting up to 10 and past 10, we kind of drop the tua. Ko te whiti te kau. And so this was, sorry, I haven't changed this from last week, but using that top format, te pānui kei te whakatauki, te rua o ngā upoko, ka tīmata ko te whiti tuatahi, tuarua, tuatoru, tuaiwa. Te pānui kei te whakatauki, te rua te kaumā rua o ngā upoko, ka tīmata ko te whiti te kaumā whā. 14, if that's helpful. Anyone want to have a go at some random numbers? Please unmute yourself. So the Proverbs that we're using this week is from chapter 22, o ngā upoko, ka tīmata at 1. So if someone wants to have a go at that, that'd be lovely. You can do this.
Pānui ke te whakatauke, te rua te kaumā rua o ngā upoko, ka tīmata ko te whiti tuatahi.
Lovely. Perfect, Chris. Thank you. Anyone else want to give it a go? You can even say exactly what Chris has said. All good. All good. We're going to move now to the 10 Commandments, Ngā ture kotahi te kau, on page 521 in your prayer books. Fraser, I know you've put your hand up for the first part for this slide, but I wonder if I could challenge you to take up the next slide as well, which carries on with the 10 Commandments. So Fraser, please unmute yourself.
Ngā ture kotahi te kau. Kaua e tahi atua ke atu mau I ko atu I aho. Kei hanga koe I ētahi whakapakoko mu. Kei koropiko koe ke mahi rānei ki ēnā mea. Kei whakahuatia noatia I koe te ingoa o iho wā o tau atua. Kia mahara ki te rā hāpati kia whakatapua. Wairua o te atua, whakamāramatia o mātou ngā koe.
Comfortable to carry on, Fraser?
Whakahonoretia tau pāpā me tau whaia. Kaua koe e kohuru. Kaua ke koe e pūremu. Kaua koe e tahe. Kaua koe I whakapai teka. Kaua koe I hia apo ki tētahi mea a tau hoatata. Wairua o te atua, whakamāramatia o mātou ngā kau.
Thank you. Thank you, Fraser. Lovely. I haven't provided the English for you. I don't think I need to. It is the 10 Commandments, and you'll find the translations in the book on page 521. Thank you, Fraser. Excellent. I like putting you people on the spot from time to time. It helps diminish the paralysis and the fear, because you can do it, and you did. Of course, we've got Te Wiki o Te Reo coming up again. I am challenging you to submit something, and thank you ahead of time for those who have already submitted. Thank you so much. And you saw the little snippet from last week that I hoped would, from Fraser, that might encourage you. If you're finding the content just a little bit daunting, then it's okay if you just want to do a karakia. If you want to do one of our karakia, that's fine. You don't need to do the whole thing. If you just want to do the grace, that's okay too. So anything that you submit that you've learned from Taha Māori, or if you want to improve, in fact, on what we've learned in Taha Māori, please feel free to do so. Just a couple of minutes, 2 to 3 minutes, MP4 uploading, of course, into Dropbox directly, or email Taha Māori at Auckland Anglican, or if you'd like help with Zoom to do that, then we're happy to assist. Just let us know, send us an email in Taha Māori. I just want to bring to your attention this, because we won't be, Taha will be sort of resting until the next series, series 4. So at 12 p.m. on Tuesday, the 14th of September, they're doing a, you can stop and take a moment for Te Reo Māori at the same time and day that our tupuna handed the Māori language petition over to Parliament. So 14th of September, at midday was when the petition was handed over. And they're saying, join us in honouring their legacy and help shape our own 2021 version. Last year, over 1 million people joined the Māori language moment, and it's on again real soon. So Tuesday, the 14th of September, if you feel that you'd like to take part in that, just go onto the Māori language moment website and you'll be able to submit your wanting to participate. And I encourage you to do so. Just sign up with all those taking part. Now, our Marae kawa, tikanga thus far. We've done karanga, as I've said earlier, Karakia, which we've enjoyed learning about, I'm sure, and whai kōrero. You might recognise that lineup of very esteemed gentlemen on the pai, and they talked about the pai last week and where whai kōrero takes place. So that I'm not sure what the occasion was in this photo, but that is definitely Pihopa George Kona, Hori Kona, and a lineup of many bishops of our province. We now move to the poroporoaki. Poroporoaki, or a farewell speech. It has several meanings, but the most common is farewelling the dead, often in poetry, stories, and waiata. In its simplest form, the poroporoaki is a cry of sorrow and farewell given on the marae, and calls for a final salutation to the dead one. Whilst a very solemn part of the tangi, it can be both serious and funny at the same time. It depends on the speaker or speakers who will address the dead person directly as though alive. Here was a group of you might recognise some of those people, recognise gentlemen who on the last evening of the tangi of the late Brown Tude decided to deliver a joint statement. So that's in the coming slide. That was on the last night, the poroporoaki at the funeral of the late Archbishop Ati Pihopa Brown today. A light moment. So I just wanted to point out that a poroporoaki, despite the solemnness of the tangi, they find time, we find time to laugh and enjoy the life of that person who, if was, you know, at another tangi somewhere, if that person was alive, that person would be in that lineup laughing too. You might note the awkwardness of Archbishop Philip. They tried to encourage him. Come on, do the haka. And everyone burst into laughter. It's wonderful. Poroporoaki is also addressed to the living, not just the dead, at social functions when people are departing for home, wherever that may be. It's usual for the manuhiri to initiate the poroporoaki. That's because it's good tikanga to let the visitors leave when they are ready, and impolite for the haukainga or the hosts to prompt them to leave. This generally happens at the conclusion of a hakere or kai, either in the whare nui, either in the main whare or the whare kai in the dining room. It's a time to acknowledge one's appreciation for the hospitality, with speeches and songs, and equally to embrace one final time before the manuhiri take their leave. This is a time generally full of laughter, as you saw with our bishops, great joy and the promise of future encounters. Here we have a group of distinguished manuhiri, you might recognize some of them, thanking the haukainga and the whare nui after a hui, with a waiata full of jest and fun. Whakarongo titiro mai. Sorry. As you can see, there's a whole lot of fun. This is in the whare nui. They've obviously had a hui overnight, maybe 2 nights, maybe a weekend. This is just before they're starting to pack up and depart. So everyone will pack their bags, move out, the visitors, but it releases them. Some of the haukainga sang there, a lady from the hosts, and they were the visitors up the top there. And they're about to depart. So poroporoaki is a wonderful time, and I enjoy them. I enjoy them at tangi, I enjoy them at hui. Something we do well. Māori love laughing at themselves. We do it really well. Our next Māori profile is a wahine well known to us, whether it be in a good light or a bad one. She has made her mark on the landscape of Aotearoa as an activist, a politician, an orator, a filmmaker, and an author. Donna Awatere, or Donna Awatere, Donna Awatere was born in Rotorua and grew up in Ruatoria. At age 16, she won the National Korimako Oratory Trophy for Māori 5th and 6th formers. Donna completed her MA with honours thesis on the development of ethnic attitudes and awareness among Māori primary school children. She continued her studies, hoping to help bring about change within the system. She later joined the Māori rights group Ngā Tamatoa and has continued to have a long involvement with Māori and women's rights, feminist groups. She was active in women's refuges and a struggle for justice at the Raglan Golf Course, Bastion Point, and the 1981 anti-Springbok tour. Donna has written many articles for the feminist publication Broadsheet and interviewed key Māori women activists, Wiki Tawhara, Hannah Jackson, Eva Rickard, and Titiwhai Harawira. With her passion for justice, Donna has spearheaded many aspects of community projects. She went on to become a member of Parliament representing the ACT Party. So let's hear from Donna herself in an interview with Moana Maniapoto. Nō reira, whakarongo, titiro mai.
True story. My friend Eda Nahon Flavel and I joined Waikato University because we wanted to be you.
No.
That's true. We enrolled to do educational psychology degrees.
Wow.
Yeah. And then I failed in the maths.
Failed the statistics.
So I ended up going to court with Dan Mihaka, saw how badly he was treated, so then I enrolled to be a lawyer. Learn law.
As a lawyer instead.
Yeah.
Oh,
but you know, you're certainly a hero. How many times have you been arrested?
Okay, so I've had 21 arrests and 21 suspensions. They tell me I'm the most suspended public servant in the history of the public servant.
You went to Cuba. What happened there?
What we did was we met people there who were really seriously oppressed, like the Palestinians, and we met the survivors of a group of Palestinian women who were hijackers, and their commander, who was a colonel. She was the last hijacker still alive, and we went to stay with her in Fidel's palace, and Rebecca Evans formed a great friendship with her, and really through her and meeting with the other liberation fighters, we came to realise that actually we had been mucking about.
In terms of strategies, mobilisation and tactics, what did you learn in Cuba?
We looked at the Springbok tour coming up, and the three of us, Josie Keelan, Rebecca Evans and myself, made a conscious decision that we would assume the leadership of that movement, bring Māoridom in, and bring the eyes of the Pākehā movement of liberal New Zealand onto our struggle, bring it home, and we did.
Was it you that issued the order to break the fence down at the Waikato game in '81?
What happened was I had the mic. Someone else was meant to do it, but they were too busy doing something else and they missed the point. And I realised if we do not go here, we're going to miss the point. So I'm looking, you know, as you do, you always look, who's going to do this? Then you think, well, I've got the megaphone, you know, and 10,000 others don't. So I went like this. Bring the fence down. So, and everyone, all the bolt cutters, the front line went like this, and all the bolt cutters, they all ran up and chopped. And I was behind, you know, directing people across the thing, you know. I was a child psychologist at this stage. It was sort of not part of the plan.
Was that a new strategy that you employed in the '71 protest?
Look, we actually walked around the outside of the field where the ceremony was taking place very dignified, you know, with our korowai all in black, with Hana looking magnificent in her, you know, korowai as she did. And then she just broke rank. I mean, one woman just broke rank and changed the next 3 decades. She ran onto that field, and in doing so, she exposed all of us who didn't run into the field. And I always think to myself, I'll never not run onto the field again.
Did you get much kickback from the older generation?
Total. They were ashamed of us.
You wrote the book on Māori sovereignty, and then you went into Parliament, into the belly of the beast. Now, how does that work?
I got asked if I would stand, and Eddie Tana and I liked ACT because of its policy of the funding following the child. That was the one thing we liked, where Labour had stopped the further growth of kura kaupapa at 60 and really stymied our movement. And they had put all of the rules of the early childhood sector onto kohanga and also stymied the movement. So we went from 800 to 500, just crashed. And the movement towards primary schools crashed. And so we thought by joining ACT, where the funding follows the child, you don't need anything else than a group of 20, 50, 100 parents to say yes, then you could get the language. Being politically naive and naive about economics, I didn't realise at the time that this was a neoliberal agenda that was actually going to benefit the 1% at the expense of the 99%. And once I realised that, I determined to stay in Parliament and fight from within, and to raise my concerns at every caucus, which, you know, to the extent that I was able to, I did. So I don't resolve from going in. I think what was important is that you should go in wherever. Greens, go in. Any church you decide to go in. But ACT was just one step too far. And, you know, I am proud of the fact that because of the issues that erupted around me that led to me being expelled from Parliament, I actually helped bring down ACT. And that, to me, is a big achievement.
There's been some criticism that the protests are all a little bit too nice. How do you think we're going now?
I'm proud of them myself. You know, I think that they are who they are. They are super intelligent. They are hugely well briefed. They are, you know, precisely articulate. You know, they command both languages, and they're beautiful. And so they are just being who they are, and that's all they have to be. They don't have to be like me and Tame, you know, and, you know, Sid, your uncle, and the rest of us. We just did what we did with what we had. But I think that they are just, you know, they're like iPhone 12.
Where did you draw the line in terms of protest? Was there a line that you yourself would not cross?
We would never do anything to harm anyone personally, so we've also got good manners, so, you know, you treat police and others with respect, but that doesn't mean to say that I didn't break the law at times, you know. When you look at the result of it was that we transformed a nation. We transformed a nation, and the transformation was that we transformed Māoridom. That's who we transformed, not Pākehā. They just carried on. Eva wasn't hooked into a wider Pākehā movement. She rang me and said, look, I need some of you to come down. I need 12 people to get arrested on the day. She's going to, you know, have a dawn ceremony to reopen Mere Te Kakara, their marae, on the green, on the golf course. And the police would come in, and at 12 o'clock, the old people would finish their ceremonies, and then we young people from Auckland would move on, and then we get arrested. That was the deal. And so it was like working the young people who, not that we weren't fearless, we were very afraid, but it was better than us than, you know, our old people do it. So working together, we could bring, get the result, which is what we got, which is that golf course has been returned. The land has gone back to those people. I mean, it was a stunning victory that was led by Eva Rickard, where the old and the young worked together. We had the same thing happen in the Springbok tour, where Pekka and I went to visit the gangs, Black Power, Mongrel Mob, and asked them to be our front line in our groups, and they did.
When you look at activism, what is the spectrum in terms of the protest landscape?
Had Sir Graham Latimer not forged his partnership with Jim Bolger, had the Māori Council not been there to translate our cries and our energy and activism into policy points and into programs inside government.
What is your advice for today's activists?
Pick the issue that means most to your heart and to our people, that you judge is going to make the biggest difference for you as an individual. And then just do that. Once you make the decision, everything else is easy, because people will feel it. They will feel your waitua into that beam of light that links your ancestors from the past into the future.
As the Māori Climate Commissioner and responding to the newly released Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change, IPCC, report, Donna said this: climate change is not only undeniably real and human-made, it is here now and will only get worse. Papatuanuku is crying. The planet is burning. But through true partnership between Māori and Pākehā, where mātauranga Māori is used to restore and renew Aotearoa, we have the opportunity to build a model that can help heal the world. In response to Greta Thunberg's tweet recently, New Zealand is one of the world's worst performers on emission increases, whose emissions rose by 57% between 1990 and 2018, the second greatest increase of all industrialized countries. That was the tweet from Greta. Donna said, we should be recognizing the truth of her comments and using the international shaming to spur us into action, to reducing our share of emissions and not remain focused on producing high-priced food for the world's wealthiest people. So Donna Awatere Huata, she married Wee Huata, but most of us know her as Donna Awatere. There's an insight into Donna. She's been around for a long time, as you can see, right back to 1971 in the protested Waitangi, 81 with the Springbok tour, and so on. She's an activist. She's someone that people can aspire to, maybe. Get arrested. I'm hoping not to do that too often, but you never know if the cause is right. If the cause is right. And so I like how, you know, she recognises the partnership between Māori and Pākehā in advancing all the things that we're passionate about, climate change, injustices, and all sorts of things. She does acknowledge that. I think one of the things about some of these profiles that we've been running is it gives you an insight into the person. It can be easy to sort of just sit back and not know. You only get the media advice on what they do, and it's very easy to therefore not engage with the person themselves. But when you hear them, when you hear Pania and Tame and Rawiri and now Donna speak for themselves, I think it portrays a different message, gives you an insight into the person rather than just the act. I'm happy to take any comments if you like.
I guess the thing that was most moving for me was the story of the golf course down at Raglan and how the older people, the younger people did what the older people couldn't do in the spirit of protection of them. I thought that was very moving. Thank you.
She acknowledged the activism of today, and she held them in high regard about, you know, how they've got the spunk, how today's activists, today's people, not only on the Aotearoa stage, but also on the global stage, particularly around climate change. And that's really starting to heat up. Oh, I shouldn't use that expression, but that's really starting to become a common language on the global tongue, let's say. And she encourages this next group of activists, and she admires them. And I like that. And it, you know, there's a command of both languages. I thought that was lovely too. That's an acknowledgement of all the Pākehā activists, and you saw them in the first series of Land of the Long White Cloud. They were Pākehā activists, and so she's saying that they're commanding both languages. So they're actually, you know, it's normalised that their voice is not just one voice; it's the voice of all of us that live here.
I think it's helpful to realise that when you get to an age where you think you just haven't got the energy to be out there on the front line, that we carry an importance of influence on the young activists, which is to say we are supporting what you are doing, we believe in what you are doing, go ahead and do it. I can remember similar acts of misbehaviour I engaged in my 20s, which I'm happy not to share. But looking back on that now, if it hadn't been for older people supporting us in some of the things that we did, we probably wouldn't have done them. So we as older influencers can help move things forward enormously. For the young people who have the physical energy to do what we had once upon a time, we now can have the vocal energy to say, what you are doing is right, keep going.
Amen. Amen. Yeah, Adjust, as you know, is the diocesan arm of social justice. You know, they're out there. They're a group of young people. They usually send me an email or a message on Facebook. This is what's happening. You know, they keep me up to date, and I go. I get on the bus. I drive to the cathedral. I get on the bus, and I just get told what to do. And you know what? I'm happy to do that. I'm guided by them, and I follow them into their protests, particularly on climate change, and again in Black Lives Matter. And so thank you. Yeah. Yes, Vicky.
And I think the young people of PTA having older people along to say talk to them and to tell them the stories of our young activism, and that very important that we had been nurtured when we were young. Our job is to nurture the young and encourage them.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, thank you, Vicky. And I think that's an important part we can play as older people, rather than just stepping back and then letting them do what they want to do. Very valid point. And I think Donna, you know, that was in 2019, that interview. Here she is, still a voice in the public face, still saying, oh, go for it, go for it, go for it. And certainly when it comes to climate change, and she's the Māori Climate Change Commissioner, yeah, we need to encourage those young voices like Adjust. You go for it. Don't, perhaps try not to get arrested, but you know, that'll be an individual preference, I suppose. Maybe some of the older ones can get themselves arrested, and that's okay, you know. But yeah. Wonderful. Thank you for sharing. Okay, we move on, and you're now up, Chris.
Te pānui kei te whakatauke ki, whakatauki te ruatakau mā rua o ngā upoko ka tīmata ko te whiti tuatahi. Engari te ingoa pai e whiriwhiria rawatia i ngā taonga nui me te mana kohanga aroha i te hiriwa i te kaura. Ka tūtaki te tangata taonga rawa ko te rawakore, ko ihua te kaihanga o rātou katoa. Wakarongo ki te kupu a te wairua ki te hahi. Wakapaingia te atua. Te pānui kei te whakatauki, te ruatakau mā rua o ngā upoko, ka tīmata ko te whiti tuawaru. Ko te kairui o te kino, ka kokoti i te he, a ka kāhore noa iho te patu o tōna riri. Ko te kānuhi oha oha, ka manakitia tērā. E huatu ana hoki e ia tētahi wahi o tana taro mā te rawakore. Wakarongo ki te kupu a te wairua ki te hahi. Wakapaingia te atua. Te pānui kei te whakatauki, te ruatakau mā rua o ngā upoko, ka tīmata ko te whiti ruatakau mā rua. Kawa e pāhuatia te rawakore, no te mea he rawakore ia, kawa hoki e whakatupuria kinotia te tangata iti i te kuwaha. No te mea ka tohea e ihoa tā rātou tohe. Ka pāhuatia ano hoki e ia te wairua o te hunga e pāhua ana ia rātou. Wakarongo ki te kupu a te wairua ki te hahi. Wakapaingia te atua.
Ka pai, Chris. Te norawe. Mahi te kāna. Well done, well done. There were a couple of, hard ones to say. Hey, that mana kohanga, that's one we haven't done. Hiriwa, that's not any words that we've done. But you've, I guess, in some ways, we can apply those skills that we've learned over the weeks, like that last word, ko ura. So we know the ko is long because it's macronized ura. And so you can actually just think about the word. I said that last week, rather than the whole thing. Think about the word and slow it down and say the word well. Hiriwa. No macrons. Ko ura. Ko ura. Because of that macron over the O. So there was some tricky words in there. What was on this one? Okay, they're not too bad. Whakatupuria, that's quite a mouthful. Kinotia, they're tricky. Pāhuatia. But again, I promise you, if you just slow it down, give each vowel its own mana, give the word its own mana, you'll find it easier to say. Definitely. Yukiko.
Te ranga ki o tera, kia rite tā koutou korero, tā koutou mahi ki te hunga whakawakia, a mua I runga I hunga tikanga o te ture here kore. Te inui o tera, e te atua te kaha o te hunga whakapono. Whakanuia tō matou, whakapono me te whakawhiri naki tanga. I roto I tau tama I a iwhui karaiti. Kia noho ora ai matou, I roto I tona Victoria, I roto pui a ifu karaiti, tō matou ariki. Amine.
Amen. Thank you, Kiko. Let's say the grace together. Kia tau, kia tātou katoa.
Katoa, te ata whai, o tō tātou ariki, a iu karaiti, me te aroha o te atua, me te iwi kankia, ki te wairua tapu, ake, 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 amine.
Amen.
I'm going to play a song now, which is a poroporoaki, sung by the New Zealand Youth Choir.
Thank you guys. Thank you so much. Can we have a photo with you?
Tihe Māori ora. Kua tipu ngā rākau. The trees have grown. Kua puawai ngā hua. The flowers have bloomed. Kua waiata ngā manu. The birds have sung. Kua tau te wao. The forest has settled. Kua tau, kua tau, kua tau e. It is settled, it is settled, it is settled. Hare mai te āoatanga. Let the peace be amongst us. Haumi e, hui e, taiki e. Let us all be as one. So we now draw to a close of series 3. Ngā mihi aroha kia koutou, ngā mihi mahana warmth kia koutou katoa for joining us in this series. I hope you've enjoyed it. We are seeking some of your feedback. We want to be able to keep you stimulated, to offer you a stimulus in the next 2. Certainly we got 2 more series coming before the end of the year. So we're always looking for something that you want, that you think will top up your kete